चौद पुरव Pranam, Jai Jinendra. Let's start the class with the prayers as usual. Welcome everybody. Namo Orientanam, Namo Sittanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Ujjayanam, Namo Loe Sabba Sahunam, Eso Panchanamukkaro Sabba Pavapanasano, Mangalanancha Sabbe Simpadvam Havai Mangalam. Namo Orientanam, Namo Sittanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Ujjayanam, Namo Loe Sabba Sahunam. Eso Panchanamukkaro Sappa Pavapanasano Mangalanancha Sabbe Simpadvam Havai Mangalam. Namo Orientanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Ujjayanam, Namo Loe Sabba Sahunam. Eso Panchanamukkaro Sappa Pavapanasano Mangalanancha Sabbe Simpadvam Havai Mangalam. Veera Sarasura Suretra Mahito Virmuda Sansrita Virena Biyata Sokarbani Chayo Viraya Nityam Nama Veera Tirthamidam Prodhamatalam Veera Shigoram Tapo Veera Shri Truti Kirtikanti Nichaya Sivira Badram Disa Kamthe Dranindra Cha Sojitam Karma Kurvati Prabhustulya Manovrutti Pashanatha Sri Stu Vaha अंगूठे अमृत वसे लपते तना भंडार श्री गुरु गौतम समरिये मनवांचित फलदातार. Just a couple of announcements about the other forthcoming classes that we've been talking about. Darshana will give us a bit more information about the Jainism book club that is going to start soon. And there is a class on the introduction to Jainism that Kavit will give us a bit more information on. So please make your announcements, Darshana and Kavit.
Jai Jinendra, everyone. So Oshwal are launching a book club, which is commencing from February. I'm not entirely sure of the exact dates, but everything will be on the Oshwal website. And the book that we're starting off with is called Jailer. So anyone that's interested, please join the book club. Thank you.
Yeah, you got some more information.
Yes, I do. Jai Jinendra Badane. So we are starting another Zoom meeting class as well. It's called Jainism and Introductory Course. It will be a weekly interactive class in English every Thursday evening. It will be via Zoom between 8 p.m. to 9:15 p.m. There is a textbook that will be available. It is going to be in English. What we suggest is you go onto the Oshwal website and register your interest so that we can then forward you more details about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kavit and Darshana. Once we finish this particular topic on today's class, the Tuesday class, we will be starting another course for the current group here on the same day, and the topic is still to be decided, but as I've reminded you, we've had a couple of suggestions. So if there are any more, please let me know, and then we'll decide maybe a couple of weeks before we are due to finish this particular topic on this class. Okay. Let me share my slides with you. Okay, I hope you can all see the slides now.
Okay. Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. So, as you all know, we are currently on the part of Kalpasutra, which describes the 27 lives of previous lives of Bhagwan Mahavir. And we've been learning about all the previous lives for several weeks now. We came up to the 17th life last time, and we'll talk about one very significant life as Triprusht Vasudeva today.
Apologies, everyone. I think Ajitbhai is experiencing some technical difficulties at his end. We will resume the class in a minute or two, so do bear with us. Apologies again.
Okay. So going back to the recap of Bhagwan Mahavir's lives that we've discussed so far, the significant ones, as I was saying, was the first one as Naisar, when Bhagwan Mahavir's soul achieves Samyaktva. The third one as Marichi, when he was the son of Chakravarti Bharatdev and the grandson of Bhagwan Rushabdev, and important events that determine a lot of the future journey of Bhagwan Mahavir's soul happen in this particular life. What we also discussed, that between the fifth and the sixth life as Kaushik Brahmin and the sixth life as Pushpamitra Brahmin, Bhagwan Mahavir's soul spends a long time in subhuman life forms. And the journey from Brahmin, Tridandi, ascetic Devlok, that carries on for a long time, and until the 16th life, when Bhagwan Mahavir's soul is born as Vishwabhuti, who is a prince in a Kshatriya, in a king's household. And the significant aspect of this particular life was his relationship with his cousin Vishakhanandi, and we discussed what happens to Vishwabhuti in that life, and towards the end of that life, even after spending a long time in great tap and study as a Jain monk, he loses his control over his pride and his anger, and exchanges the significant amount of punya that he had acquired in that particular life on a wish to be able to kill his cousin Visakhanandi in a future life. So he binds what is called a Niyanu and ends his life there. And because of all the punya that he required, the 17th life is that of a Dev in Mahasukra Devlok with a long lifespan.
Ajitbhai,
yeah.
sorry, can you just start the slideshow so that we can see the slide on
Oh,
the screen?
Sorry, my apologies. I thought you were, no, it's, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the 17th bow in as a Dev in Mahasukra Devlok with a long lifespan. Following that life in Mahasukra Devlok, Bhagwan Mahavir Ji is born in the 18th life as Triprusht, who is destined to be the Vasudeva of that time in our Bharat Kshetra. So it's the same area or the same Kshetra in which Bhagwan Mahavir will in the future be born as the 24th Tirthankar. So he was the first Vasudeva of this particular time cycle, and this was at the time of Bhagwan Shriyasnath, the 11th Tirthankar. Okay. Triprusht was born to King Ripuprati Shatru in the city-state of Otanpur, and he was born to this king's queen called Mrugavati. He had a lifespan of 84 lakh varsh, that is 8.4 million years. Now, Triprusht was destined to be the Vasudeva, and he had an elder brother called Achal. His cousin Visakhanandi from his previous life as Viswabhuti was born as a great Kesari Singh or Kesari lion in the mountain range of Turangiri. The lion roamed the area called Shaliksetra and was killing farmers and made everybody very frightened of him. Now, there are 2 or 3 particularly relevant incidents in this life, and we will discuss them not in very detailed format, but at least enough for you all to understand. I'm sure a lot of you have heard some of these 2 or 3 stories that I'm going to talk about today. The first one that is important is how Tripusht's father got the name of Prajapati. Now, if you're not, excuse me. If you've not heard of this part of the story before, you may be surprised, but let's recite it. And if there are any questions, please ask. Now, Ripu Patisatru, as the king, had a daughter called Mugavati. When she came of age and grew up to be an extremely beautiful young woman, her father, Ripu Pratisatru, saw her for the first time, realizing her beauty. I mean, before that she was young and he may not have been attracted to her before, but this time when she became of age, he was very attracted to his daughter and he desired to make her his queen. Now, obviously, that would be considered to be extremely bad. It would be considered to be a pap, and that level of incest from the king would disturb the whole population. And even though he was the king, he realized that something like this, when he would marry his own daughter, would not be seen too kindly. So he sets off a sort of a debate in the court one day and asks his senior ministers and all those present in that court on that day, in that Rajya Sabha, that if there is something beautiful and valuable that is produced in this kingdom, who does it belong to? Now, this was a loaded question. Nobody knows the background to it and what has made the king ask such a question. And the obvious answer was that if there was anything that was born or produced in the kingdom, which was unique and exceptional, then that particular thing belonged, or that particular person belonged to the king. And the answer was obvious. So everybody said to the king that obviously anything of that value or that uniqueness should belong to the king. And the king said, well, in our kingdom, in my household, my daughter Mugavati has been born, and she is an asset to the kingdom. And as you just said, she should belong to me. Therefore, I've decided that I'm going to marry her. And he goes ahead and becomes her husband. So he marries his own daughter called Mugavati, and the two of them then live as husband and wife. And to them, Triprusht, Bhagwan Mahavir's soul, is born as the first Vasudeva. And as Jain Dharma describes that when a Vasudeva is conceived, the mother sees 7 holy dreams. And as you all know, Tirthankar's and Chakravarti's mother normally sees 14 dreams. Vasudeva's mother sees 7 dreams. Now, I haven't got any other details on slides, so I'm just going to recite the stories for now. And if you want the slides, I'll complete the slideshow for a second next week, and I'll share that with you. Triprusht and his brother Achal become very renowned as extremely strong and powerful people. And there was a Prativasudev by the name of Ashwagriv, who was at that time the ruler of half the Bharat. And he had his Jyotish predict the nature of his death in the future. And he had been told that he would die at the hands of a person who insults his royal messenger by the name of Chandveg, and also the same person who would kill a lion by splitting him with his bare hands. And somebody with that kind of strength and that kind of insolence to actually insult Ashwagriv's Rajdut or royal messenger would be the person who would kill him. Now, this had been predicted a long time ago. in terms of what we have all heard before, I mean, the same combination of Baladev, Vasudev, and Prativasudev was what we saw with Ravan, who was the Prativasudev, Lakshman, who was the Vasudev, and Ram, who was the Balram, that is the elder brother of Lakshman. Similarly, Krishna, Balram, and the other Prativasudev, that was the same combination. And in this particular instance, it is Triprusht and his brother Achal and Ashwagriv as the Prativasudev. Now, Ashwagriv spends his life feeling very insecure and worried about this prediction that he would die at the hands of this particular person. And throughout his life, since he had heard this, he is trying to understand who that person might be. Now, once while Triprusht's father's court was in progress, one of the messengers from Ashwagriv comes to the court, and Ashwagriv is the senior king or the emperor of that area, and Tripusht's father, Prajapati Raja, is actually one of his Khandiya Raja or one of his subordinate kings, and they would be under the care of this emperor. So they would be sort of local administrators, as the emperor was the supreme leader of that whole area. So the Dut, the royal messenger, Chandweg, comes to the court, and the moment he enters the court, Prajapati Raja, that is Tripusht's father, recognizes the messenger and stops the particular performances that were going on in the court on that day. So there is a dance performance going on, and he disturbs the performance and stops it to greet the messenger and ask him what he has come for. Now, for both Triprusht and his brother, this seemed to be very insulting, that a performance that they were enjoying very much was actually stopped for this unknown person. They did not know who he was, and they were actually about to insult him on the spot and throw him out of the court, but the ministers warn them and tell them not to act hastily at that moment. And the ministers tell the two brothers who this particular person was, this messenger was. However, neither Triprusht or his brother Achal were afraid of anybody, and they would not take no for an answer. So after the messenger actually left the court, later on they pursue him, accost him, rob him, and insult him, and then send him back. The messenger obviously goes back to Ashwagriv and recites the incidents and explains to Ashwagriv who these two people were. Meanwhile, this particular lion who was roaming the forests and making life very, very difficult for the local farmers, because he used to kill the farmers, and the farmers found it very difficult to continue with their work as farmers, and a lot of them were killed. Ashwagriv, as the supreme leader, the emperor of that area, decides that the only way to try and stop this king is to instruct his subordinate kings to look after that particular area where this lion was roaming, that Saligram area, and to send soldiers to make sure that the people were protected from the lion. So they would go there in numbers, and to ensure that if the lion came, then they would take all possible measures to frighten the lion away, so that he would not be so courageous to disturb all the people when there's so many people with weapons around him. So this goes on for some time, and after this incident, as when the royal messenger was insulted, Ashugriv thinks that it is possible that these are the people, the two boys that my Jyotish was talking about, and I need to test whether they are really the people who will be responsible for my death. So he sends another message and says to King Prajapati that it is now your turn. So after this particular incident, when the messenger was insulted, he sends his messenger again and says, it is now your turn to protect the people from this particular very dangerous lion, and can you please do the needful? King Ashwagriv was obviously very afraid that this is something that is very dangerous, and there is a grave risk that somebody would be or many people would be killed by this lion. Both his sons, Triprusht and Achal, are not afraid, and they reassure the king. He says, you don't need to worry about it, and we don't need an army. We will go on our own and will defeat the king, so that he is no longer going to make life difficult for the farmers and the people in that area. So Triprusht, with a charioteer, goes to the forest where this great lion is known to be residing, and slowly seeks out his particular cave and confronts the lion. The lion sees this one single person standing there. Triprusht, as a warrior, is already carrying a lot of weapons, but he recognizes that the lion has got no weapon, obviously, apart from whatever strength he has and the power he has as a lion. So Triprusht, as a show of fairness, discards all his weapons, discards all his armor, and goes and stands in front of the lion. And as the lion starts attacking him, he stands in front of him, holds him, his jaw from top to the bottom, and pulls the upper jaw and the lower jaw apart with such great strength that the lion actually dies on the spot, having been torn in from the mouth. That was the strength of a Vasudev, and it is there are descriptions of how strong a Vasudev can be. And the lion gets severely injured, and there's no way that he was going to survive this, and he lies there in great agony. Triprusht has defeated this lion, but the lion is bewildered that I have been defeated by a mere human being who is standing in front of me without any weapons at all. And he was very proud of his strength and his power in that particular forest that he ruled over. The charioteer recognizes this puzzlement and this pain of defeat in the eyes of the lion, and the charioteer goes down, sits beside the lion, who is no longer a danger, and explains to him. I mean, he uses the words, what he says is described. It is understood that the lion, with the tone of the voice, would have been able to understand what the charioteer was trying to convey. So he basically tells the lion that don't be ashamed that you've been defeated by a mere human being. The person who has defeated you is no ordinary human being. He has extremely great strength, and he's a Vasudeva. So you actually been defeated by a lion among humans. So, and you've been defeated by somebody who is mightier than you are. So don't feel ashamed of this and die peacefully. Now, this particular incident and the lives of Bhagwan Mahavir's soul and this particular lion come together in the life of Bhagwan Mahavir. And there is a story about how this particular association between them plays out. And I'll just recite that story here as well, so that you make the connection. After Bhagwan Mahavir had achieved Keval Gnan, and one day he instructed Guru Gautam to go to a village not far from where Bhagwan Mahavir was stationed at the time. He says, can you go and meet this particular farmer there and talk to him about progressing spiritually in a certain path? And Gautam Swami was extremely skilled in this, and Bhagwan Mahavir often sent him out to meet individual people like this. So he sends him to this particular farmer there. Guru Gautam convinces this farmer about the nature of our existence and makes sure that he understands that the path to spiritual progress was becoming a Nirgranth Muni or a monk or a sadhu. And the farmer is so convinced, and he decides to give up his life as a farmer, abandons his household, and walks back with Guru Gautam. On the way, he's asking Guru Gautam, what are we doing? And Guru Gautam says, we are going to my Guru, so that you can be initiated in the path as a Jain monk from my Guru, that is Bhagwan Mahavir. The farmer walks along with him, completely convinced that that is the path that he wants to take, until they come very near the Samvasran, where Bhagwan Mahavir is giving Deshna. And the farmer sees Bhagwan Mahavir and asks, Guru Gautam introduces him and says, right there in front of us, as soon as you see the Samvasran, that is my Guru, that is Bhagwan Mahavir. So the farmer, not having seen Bhagwan Mahavir ever before, however, as soon as he sees him, he is filled with fright and hatred, and he says, if that person is your Guru, then I do not want any part of this life as becoming his disciple. He just takes an instant dislike to Bhagwan Mahavir and returns back to his life as a farmer. Guru Gautam is puzzled by this particular incident. because he knew that this farmer was completely convinced and was very happy to follow the path that would lead to great spiritual progress. So he lets the farmer go, but then proceeds and sits down in front of Bhagwan Mahavir and asks him very politely and says, Bhagwan, you told me to go and talk to this farmer, and I did that, and he was convinced, and he was coming back here to become a monk. But however, on seeing you, he has turned back and gone away. I didn't understand what was actually happening. And Bhagwan Mahavir tells Guru Gautam that this was the incident in our previous life, in my previous life as Triprusht Vasudeva, when I had torn the lion apart, and this farmer is in this life. He is the farmer, but in his previous life, when we were together, he was the lion that I had killed in that life. Guru Gautam was again puzzled. He says, well, he did not, I understand the reason why he did not respond to you, but why did he respond to me? And Bhagwan Mahavir says that you were the charioteer, the Sarthi of my chariot at that time, who took it upon himself to demonstrate kindness to the dying lion, and you went down and talked to him kindly and explained to him who I was and who Triprusht Vasudeva was, and not to be ashamed of the fact that a mere human being had killed this mighty lion. And the lion, hearing your voice, actually took some comfort and solace in your words, and therefore he had a kinder disposition towards you. But because I had been instrumental in his death and had actually torn him apart, he obviously has retained this memory from his previous life, though he doesn't know what the connection was. Therefore, he ran away on seeing me. However, the reason why I did send you that because this first step of him being convinced that this was the life that would lead to spiritual progress is the beginning of his spiritual progress, and you've done him a great service. So that is how this particular incident plays out in Bhagwan Mahavir's future life. Following this particular incident, when the lion is killed, Ashwagrav's soldiers who had witnessed this incident see the lion's body, remove his skin, and take it to Ashwagrav as proof that this lion has been killed. And Ashwagrav now recognizes that whatever the Jyotish had said about the person who is going to be responsible for his death is actually this person called Triprusht Vasudeva. And he lives in fear, but also in pride that maybe if I kill him, then this particular risk that I have at dying from him at his hands may not actually materialize. So he's looking for any kind of excuse. And once, after this particular incident with the lion, one of the Vidyadhar kings has a beautiful daughter, and having heard this particular incident and the great valor of Triprusht, he offers his daughter in marriage to Triprusht and says, I'd like you to marry my daughter. Ashwagriva, on hearing this, sees this as an insult, that since he was the reigning emperor, why would this particular Vidyadhar king not offer his daughter to him in marriage, and instead ask Triprusht Vasudeva to marry his daughter. And Triprusht was a mere ordinary human being who was much younger and did not have the same power and reputation. So he sends a message to this king and says that you should decide to give your daughter in marriage to me, and if you do not agree to that, then be ready for a battle. So he challenges this king, and Triprusht Vasudeva, on behalf of this king who has offered his daughter in marriage to him, sets out to do battle with Ashwagriva. Ashwagriva was a Prativasudev, so he had in his power a Sudarshan Chakra, or a chakra basically, and this chakra is something that is forced to release to kill Triprusht Vasudeva. The chakra merely makes Triprusht Vasudeva on the battlefield unconscious for a short while, and then as soon as he gets up, the chakra is his to command, and he throws that chakra back to the Prativasudev, and the Ashwagriva's chakra kills him and he dies, and Triprusht inherits his whole kingdom. So that was half of Bharat, and he continues to be the emperor as the Vasudev, and leads a very lavish life as a great emperor for a long time. There is a particular incident that is described here, that the two brothers once have gone to listen to Bhagwan Shriyasnath, that is the 11th Tirthankar, and his brother Achal is very moved by the sermon from Bhagwan Shriyasnath, and he sets out on the path to spiritual progress. However, the sermon touched Triprusht Vasudeva, but the spiritual progress that he had achieved in the previous life as a Vishwabhuti may have been rekindled briefly, but however, with the power as a Vasudeva and with all the amenities and all the wealth that he was surrounded by, and all the beautiful women and queens that he was surrounded by, that particular spiritual awakening does not last very long, and Triprusht Vasudeva carries on leading his life of enjoyment and is extremely proud of his power. Life carries on for a long time, and there is this third incident that is important in that particular life. Triprusht Vasudeva was very fond of music, and he had great musicians who would be coming to his court. Once when a performance was going on, because he was tired, he had left instruction that as soon as I go to sleep, please stop the music so it does not disturb my sleep. Now, the chief musician who was leading the orchestra and was singing, was a part of that, gets so engrossed in the music that he forgets this particular instruction. After a while, Triprusht falls asleep, but the musician forgets that he has to stop the performance and carries on. And after a while, as the performance is going on, Triprusht Vasudeva wakes up again, the king wakes up, and on hearing that the music is still going on, he gets extremely upset and angry. And he calls the head musician that you enjoy the music so much and you're so engrossed that you forgot my instruction, and is extremely angry at the musician. Says, since you like to hear great music so much, I'm going to punish you. And he orders his men to prepare some molten lead and asks them to pour molten lead in the ears of this particular musician. And the musician is obviously in extreme pain as a result of this and suffers immensely. Now, this particular incident comes to fruition, the particularly bad karma that Bhagwan Mahavir's soul had acquired in this life as Triprusht Vasudeva comes into fruition during the life of Bhagwan Mahavir. And we all know the story of this particular cowherd, the Gowal, who once, when Bhagwan Mahavir had not yet achieved Keval Gnan, was in this 12.5 years of his sadhana, he comes across a cowherd who has got a lot of cattle, cows, who is looking after them. And he sees this particular monk standing in meditation in the middle of the jungle, and wants somebody to look out for his cows while he goes into the town not far from there to run some errand, to finish some business. And he just gives instruction to Bhagwan Mahavir, who is standing there in meditation, and says, please look after my cows, and I'll be back very soon. And he thought that that was enough. Even though Bhagwan Mahavir is in meditation and does not respond, he assumes that he is standing there, so he's going to be looking after my cows. And he goes away, and after finishing his work, he comes back. But by this time, the cows have wandered off and gone all over into the forest in search of more food, in search of more grass. And this cowherd cannot find them anywhere. And he keeps on asking Bhagwan Mahavir as to what he's done with the cows and where they are. And he gets extremely upset and angry, and keeps on insulting Bhagwan Mahavir, who is standing quietly in meditation, completely ignoring this cowherd. So the cowherd says, since it looks like you are not hearing and you're not paying any attention to what I'm saying, and I'm extremely upset that in spite of me instructing you to look after my cows, you let them go and I can't find them anywhere. He had roamed the whole of the forest and couldn't find them anywhere. And he decides to punish Bhagwan Mahavir and puts 2 wooden nails, one in each ear, and he hammers them in. Now, as we know, that would have been extremely painful, and the pain that Bhagwan Mahavir suffered at that time, and subsequently when those nails were removed by a kind physician who recognizes what has happened after this particular incident has finished with the cowherd, that was the result of the bad karma, the pap karma that he had acquired in the life as Triprusht by pouring molten lead, or ordering molten lead to be poured in the ears of this musician. And this musician has now come back to unknowingly seek his revenge in this particular life as the cowherd. So Bhagwan Mahavir suffers from the consequences of this particular incident in the life of Triprusht Vasudeva, in the life as Bhagwan Mahavir. Just to complete that part of that story, soon after this particular action that the cowherd does by hammering in nails in both ears of Bhagwan Mahavir, he carries on looking, and the cows, having finished eating, come back to the same spot where they had left from. So the cowherd has got his cows back and he goes back home, leaving Bhagwan Mahavir there. Sometime later on, two people come along. One of them is a physician, a Vaid, and he sees that Bhagwan Mahavir seems to be in extreme pain, but just looking at him in meditation, it's not very obvious what the cause of that pain is. And then he begins as a physician to inspect Bhagwan Mahavir and soon recognizes that there are two wooden sharp nails sticking out of his ears, and that is probably the cause of that pain. So he gets a particular luhar workman with the necessary skills, with some kind of pliers or sansi, and he brings with him a lot of a special kind of oil that would ensure that the pain would be reduced, and he does all that is necessary in his power as per his knowledge, and makes Bhagwan Mahavir's body very comfortable, and both him and this particular luhar that he's brought with him jointly remove the nails from each ear. Now, it is said that this was the only time that Bhagwan Mahavir cries out in pain, and when the nails are removed, he cries out so loudly that a neighboring mountain actually forms a crack because of the power of Bhagwan Mahavir's cry when the nails are removed. And that place is still around in a part of India, and it is a tirth that people can go and see. It is reputed that that is the area where this particular incident happened. So those three incidents are important in this life as Triprusht Vasudeva. His life carries on with this enjoyment and with this abuse of power and extreme pride. And towards the end of that life, the Vasudeva dies, and the soul of Bhagwan Mahavir in the next life goes to the seventh hell. And this is the fate of all the Vasudevas, that after the life of great power and great strength and great enjoyment, the next life is in Narak. Bhagwan Mahavir's soul from this life as Triprusht Vasudeva goes to the seventh hell. The minimum lifespan or the maximum lifespan in the seventh hell is 33 Sagarupams. That is a huge amount of time. So the 19th life is that in the seventh hell. This Narak is called Mahatamaprabha, Tamaprabha. It is 7 Raj in width, and it is right at the bottom of the universe. That place, Surindaben Vora, in her Kalpsutra narrative story form, describes this particular hell, and she says that there is extreme darkness there. That all the people in the Narak are extremely violent, and their bodies are in a very poor state. They are extremely ugly. They look extremely frightening. They are born in kind of a very, very dirty pot in the walls of that particular area of the seventh hell. Now, Devs and Narak, the lives in Narak, Narakna Jivo, they are all born spontaneously. They do not have birth like we do. They are not garbage. They are samurchim, meaning they are not born of a union of a male and a female. They are born just in this kind of vessels. In Narak, they are called Kumbi. In Devlok, they are called Dev Syaya. There's a vast difference between the two. The one in Narak is extremely unpleasant, and getting out of that is also extremely painful for the life that is born there. Kumbinu mukh sakadu hovati anya narkio emne kapine kade છે. So says that the mouth of this particular vessel is so narrow that the soul that is born as a narak in that particular kumbi cannot get out, and the other lives, the other narak najivo there would cut them in pieces and then bring them out. The life of a narak jeev is made of Vaikriya Sarir, so even if they are cut, the body comes back together. એ જીવોને ક્ષુદ્ધા તૃષા તીવ્ર હોય છે અને તે પણ સમતી નથી. They are constantly hungry and nothing can actually satisfy their hunger, and they have a state of constant irritation all over their body, which remains with them throughout their life. So that is the kind of suffering that souls in Narak experience for a long time. And here there is a description of the seventh hell. And next week we'll start off with the 20th life, which is that of a lion. So from this life of Triprusht Vasudeva, Bhagwan Mahavir's soul goes to the seventh hell, and from there is born as a lion, and we'll start off with that life and go on to the next lives. Okay. If there are any questions, please ask. Otherwise, we'll come to an end of this class today. I'll stop sharing the screen.
Just quickly, Ajitbhai, I have put it in the chat, but just for everyone, the email that was sent out to you with the today's class correction details also has details for the book club and the Jainism class. So please have a look at that email as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Anything on the chat? Meera, Kavit, Darshana?
Nothing from my side.
I haven't received anything either.
Okay.
I haven't either.
Okay. In terms of learning from this life of Bhagwan Mahavir as Triprusht Vasudeva, just the thing to remember is that what brought him to this level was one, pride in his strength, difficulty in containing his anger, his ego, when he trades his particular top for great strength, which obviously nature has granted him, and all the good that he had accumulated and elevated himself spiritually is completely lost, and it pulls the soul down to this life as a Vasudev, even though it is accompanied by great wealth, great power, great strength. However, takes the soul down to the levels of depravity where there is no other future except that in hell, and he spends a long time there. And the decline, spiritual decline that ensues from that particular incident as in the life as Visvabhuti continues for a very long time. Okay, this was what was destined, but that decline teaches us the lessons of how easy it is for the soul to actually descend so low down. Let's not forget that this was the soul of Bhagwan Mahavir, a great soul, and in spite of this downfall, the soul had the power to ascend back up, and within a few lives get to the point of becoming a Tirthankar. However, if ordinary souls like us lose our path and go down so deeply and lose our connection with ourselves spiritually, it may be extremely difficult to come back up again for a very, very long time. And there are examples and stories of a lot of souls who get lost in this way for an extremely long time, and it takes a great amount of suffering for us to get back on the path. So the lesson to learn is some of these fundamental faults that we all carry of pride, deceit, anger, lust, the lust for power, are some things to be conscious of, to work on a regular, on a constant basis, to explore and reflect on our reactions to what happens in our lives on a daily basis, and understand what is a more spiritually progressive path as opposed to a spiritually destructive path, as we learned from a lot of the stories in Bhagwan Mahavir's life. Hopefully we all retain this, and we'll see you everybody next week. If I've said anything that is against the teachings of our great Tirthankar Bhagwans and Guru Bhagwans, I ask for forgiveness. Jinagna Virud Kai Punabulayo, Te Savihum Ramshan Kaya Kari, Tasmichami Dukudam. Swaramangala Mangalyam, Surakalyan Karanam, Vadhanam Suradharmanam, Jainam Jaiti Sasanam. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ajitbhai.
Thank you. I'll take your leave, Kavit, Mira, Darshana. catch up with you next week. Thank you.
सकल विश्वना नाथ हे प्रभु शरणे आवियो आबाळता हरो अधिक बुद्धि तू शुद्ध आपजे प्रभु कृपा करी कष्ट कापजे नव कदी करी भक्ति भाव थी नव कथा सुनी निज कान थी स्मरण ना कर्યું तेम ताहरू नाथ भलु थशे केम माहरू बहु गरीब रंकने दुख आपिया तरु सुधर्मना देह कापिया अधिक लोभनी लालचे फसी फिकर ना धरी चित्त मां कशी कथन कई कूड़ा मुखे कर्या वचन नीतिना सर्व विसर्या करवडे कदी धर्म ना कर्या पण अधर्मना कोथळा भर्या जगतनाथ हूँ डर्यो नहीं जरे अनेक पाप में संसार मां कर्या चरण थी कदी चाली ना गयो प्रभु सुपंथ मां दूर तो रह्यो चरण पाप ने पंथ तो धर्यो दिल विषे नहीं ते थकी डर्यो छल प्रपंच ने धूर्त काम मां नव कदी मुकी सर्वदा परो कर गमे तने जे प्रभु हवे अहीं बळुं छुं पाप संतापमां दुख थी दूरे नाथ जी करो अर्ज